I'm Pepito. I'm the dog that produces the show, and now it is live, and I'm a dog.
Case Blackwell said, just a reminder to our dear Chameleon Harry. We're the world number gun tag stream, and you can tag me at any point tonight as long as you're holding your corners debate stream and you have 7 pennies.
We're live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's news it! A Pepito!
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Oh my god, it's debate night. I still have this terrible jacket on. Good to see you, Skymer, Greg Q, Tamtran, Uncle Phil 2K, Funnelweb, Daggett on Twitch, Tasty Zero, love the hate. Apple Dapple, Mr. Smith, not my brother, live and sleazy. The heroes of chat. Hello. Oh, man, every time I look over and see this thing. On the bright side, I think it will almost certainly break within a couple weeks or sooner. It really feels like it's not meant to last. Ooh, thank you for the 100 bits, Jeslyn. It's debate night in America. It's our favorite time of the year. The hypest debate of them all. Will this hype train last for 8 minutes? We'll try to send it over to Mush's from a little earlier, actually. Oh my god. Look at all these hot bits coming in. Jesus Christ. It's too much. Hello, Thomas. Good to see you. Good to see everybody. Super Beast, Bundles Crowd.
Not Case's brother said Hawk Claw, debate night, I think.
Exactly, President. Mr. Dear Sweet President. Maybe he will tag us. Maybe there's still time to reverse course. Some of the luster might come off tomorrow. Maybe we're realizing our mistake. My mistake. Straight next time. Can you sub go bust out of that blazer like Hulk? That is tempting. Oh, man. See, it feels like when I watch, I'm going to have to do shit. Is when something will go wrong. Maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. Maybe it's immortal. Panther can have it, exactly. Okay, Hype Train. We don't have much time. Are you here? Man.
Getting some lunch prep going. Yeah, thank you for summoning me on this important, auspicious night.
My favorite type of suspicious.
I like
They can't hear anything?
Not Case's brother said her mic's too low, bro.
My mic is too low. What is going on with the mic? Let's pump it up. Jam that gain all the way up. Yeah, now it's probably too loud. Okay, that seems about right. We're gaining now.
Hype Train, your music's too annoying.
No. It's how it's supposed to be. You don't want to hear what I'm saying. That's why I'm alive still.
Level 2. You're going to have to just hype in the corner, because I have to send it to Munch and Crumb.
Well, just know I'm watching. I'm rooting for Jill Stein.
Yeah, I'm fine with rooting for Jill Stein, actually. I appreciate several of Jill Stein's campaign positions.
And she'll be there tonight?
No, there will be no third-party candidate. As is our great custom here. Thank you, Justin, for the 100 bits. Thank you, Apple to Apple, for the 100 bits. Let's send it down to Munch and Crumb, as the debate's possibly going to start in 5 minutes. Now my hair's looking just right. Here's your debate moderators, our personal debate moderators for the night. It's time for Munch and Crumb. We're in our award show finest. We're wearing the golden tuxes in celebration of this celebration of American values. Those values being two men enter, one's a woman, and maybe both of them die. That's not happening. What? Don't get so close to the camera. That's a classic zoom in on me. Stop. No, that's too much for your face. It's debate night. Why is it just zooming in on you and not the background? It's one of those, because they push the camera in really fast, but they also zoom. It's that old Hollywood trick. You know what I'm saying? Jesus Christ.
Under just Mama Jan 500 shiny tasty
Settle
coins,
down,
and
everybody.
I've been dying to say this.
What's up?
I look forward to my upcoming debate with Trump. I'm waxed and we'll get greased up for this contest of strength.
Get him in there. I think it's, like all conservatives, I think it's extremely unfair that he was unjudiciously eliminated from this election cycle. He's not even president anymore. He is still president. A debate is demanded. Can't make a poll, but you got to go in your pants, which you gonna pee or poo. Oh, if you've got to go in your pants, do you poop or pee? They said pee or poo, and we will get to that. We'll get to that between the sheets of this debate. Oh, well, like during the sex of the debate. Well, like sorry, I misspoke. The sex is the debate. When there's a little break between sexual debate sessions, we'll get to that pee or poo debate. Terrible way to put that, but yes, we will absolutely get to that debate. Also, thank you for all the support, everybody. I noticed the hype train's still going. I believe that's some sort of hell creature, but just know that thing is off somewhere and will soon be dead. Yeah, we'll take a break from the sex of the debate for the pillow talk of our personal debates. I like to think our debates are the sex. Listen to what he just said. Well, I just mean I have more fun with our debates than watching these. Not that they're not important, but, actively engaged. To us, the debate is more like, let's stop explaining the metaphor. There was barely a metaphor. Oh, my God. We're wasting time. They could already be on stage.
That's what's happened in the past when counties across the country have tried
PBS
to do
NewsHour, what is this?
And
News Special, the ABC News
Okay, here we
Presidential
go.
Debate Simulcast. Tuesday, September 10th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central.
9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central. Which makes it what time for us? In like 2 minutes. Okay, that means we should go down there. Yeah, it's debate night in America. Simulcast? Wait, simulcast of what? What are they also simulcasting? I'm confused, PBS. Here, we might have to switch to ABC if they keep this up. They're having more technical difficulties than even Case, seemingly. Unless they intend this to be completely silent. Well, they don't want. They can't pick which audio source they want to use. I'm gonna switch to a different debate stream.
How would she change things right now?
NBC.
Does she acknowledge to some extent that the
What's wrong with
economy is
NBC?
not where she wants it to be, and really lay out in more detail what she wants to see? Yes, she's going to prosecute the case against Donald Trump on a range
Are they
of
starting
different
late?
issues. She'll accuse
Well,
him
it's before
of
6.
switching his opinion, particularly when it comes to the issue of abortion and reproductive
You have
rights.
to pay for
But again,
sound.
she's got to walk
I've run
that
into that
fine
issue
line.
before
But
with
she also
campaign
has to
financing.
answer for some changes in her own
I wrote off
positions.
$2 million
Of course, she ran
in
for president in 2020.
financing
She
as
came
to
across and
so people could hear me on
positioned herself as
stage.
a much more progressive
$2 million
type of
for
candidate.
mics.
Now she's really
It's expensive to
moving
have
the middle
mics.
here in a general election.
Crowded primary, right back in 2019, 2020. She has moved away from that on issues like, for example, mandated gun buybacks for automatic.
The hype has indeed ended. For just listening to
Something that
NBC pundits. Look, we'll cut to them once the debate actually starts. I can't stomach it. Well, what are you going to offer any analysis of this debate beforehand? What could come? I'm guessing you're voting for Trump. I'm not saying who I'm voting for. I, of course, am an independent conservative. What does that even mean? I'm independently conservative. But of course, you're just going to vote for Harris, right? I've thrown my support behind Harris. That's correct. But what could she even do if you're so independent to win your vote, Munch? I guess if she brought me up personally, what? If she's they ask her a question about what are you gonna do to fix prices? She's like, I'll ask Ralph Munchcut. That could get me behind her. If she flatters your specific ego, that could get you on her side. Yeah, that'd be a big move from her. It's like getting an RFK endorsement. You get only one vote out of it, but it's the vote that matters the most. What could Trump do to get you to vote for him? Absolutely nothing. I guess if he completely changed who he was in every position he had, then if he does that tonight, if he unzips Scooby-Doo style and steps out of it and says, it was a prank, everything I've ever done was a prank, I still wouldn't vote for him, but I would be like, that makes more sense. Pathetic. See, that's why this is just party politics. You're already just committed to one side. She has my vote if she has plans to send Crumb to Djibouti. I would absolutely, if she promises to kill you, I will vote for her. That's, as usual, you're just wishing death upon me. I absolutely am. Miss Harris, this is just add it as a little addendum. You can even come out with this position after the debate and say, I will kill Crumb. Okay, the debate has started. Let's get into it.
Presidential debate. We want to welcome viewers watching on ABC and around the world tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's meeting could be the most
I tried to
consequential
remix it, but it
event
didn't
of their
work.
campaigns, with Election Day now less than 2 months away. For Vice President Kamala Harris, this is her first debate since President Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this race has taken
Wolves
on
are for
an
Harris due to the
entirely new
Republican
And that brings us to
use
the
of
rules
Sarah Palin,
tonight's
the
debate.
ultimate wolf
90
killer.
minutes with 2 commercial
Shit, I
breaks.
forgot
No
about
topics
that.
or questions have
We
been
can't
shared
blame
with
Trump
the
for that.
campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer
I
questions.
think you can.
And this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2
Whoa,
minutes for
look at that.
rebuttals
That's a big
and
clock.
1
You
minute
can't
for
miss it.
follow-ups, clarifications, or
Is
responses.
this the deal or no
Their
deal set? What
microphones
is
will
this?
only be turned on when it's their turn to speak. No pre-written notes allowed. There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who
intimate.
have never met.
President Trump won the coin toss. He chose to deliver the final closing statement of the evening. Vice President Harris selected
Let me turn
the
this up
podium
for you
to the
guys.
right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
There's all white noise.
Kamala Harris.
Let's have a good debate.
You see, have fun.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Welcome to you both. It's
They're
wonderful
going to
to
have
you.
fun.
It's an honor to have
That's
you
why
both here
he's just
tonight.
wishing
Good
fun upon
evening.
everyone.
We are looking forward to a spirited and thoughtful debate.
So let's
Good
get
luck.
started.
Looking forward to that.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their #1 issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than
So
they
far,
were
she's
4
doing
years
better
ago?
than Biden. I just want to point that out.
So I was raised as a middle-class kid. And I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition,
Trump's asleep.
the
Oh, he's
aspirations,
awake.
the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I
So
call
I'm
an
trumping out, too.
opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes
Stop
and housing.
pretending to sleep.
And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was
They
a
really
woman who
launch
helped
into
raise
this
us.
stuff.
We call her our
Guess they
second
have
mother.
to.
She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start-up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in
Trump's
$5
color
trillion
is a little
to
wild.
America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas
He's not listening.
about what
But are
should
we
be
listening is
the
an equally valid
backs
question.
of middle-class people paying for
So
tax
far, I'm not
cuts
sure
for
if I'm listening.
billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that.
No sales
we're doing
tax?
Tariffs on other countries.
Wow,
Other
getting rid of it
countries are gonna
entirely?
finally,
Damn, I didn't know that.
75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the
He's not doing
tariff
that.
will be substantial in some
not
cases.
getting rid of sales
They took in
tax.
billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places.
Who?
They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher.
Kendall's
than they
asking
were
what
just
topic
a
they're
few
on.
years
Currently, they're
ago.
sort of just
This has
blabbering.
been a disaster
They're on the topic
for
of
people, for the
blabbering.
middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have
Well, Trump-ish at
millions
least.
of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from
Be
mental
generous and say they both are.
institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You
When's
see what's
Hannibal
happening
coming
with
out?
towns throughout the
Countdown
United
to
States.
Hannibal.
You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado.
Nobody
They
says
are
Aurora
taking
like
over
Trump.
the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying
He
our
is
country.
hard to listen
They're
to.
dangerous.
My God.
They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in
Who
the
out?
history of our country. I'll do it again, and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Donald Trump left us
Yeah.
the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up
It's a high
Donald
bar,
Trump's
though.
mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight
But if he's real nice,
is a detailed
how he could be
and
really
dangerous
nice.
plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected
he
again.
looks calm. So calm that he almost
I believe
looks
very
like a
strongly
dyed corpse.
that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there.
What about
I
your
haven't
vice
read
president?
it. I don't want to read
the
it
vice
purposely.
president.
I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad. But it makes no difference. I have
there's a
nothing
couple
to
good
do.
ones.
Everybody knows I'm
What
an
are the
open
good
book.
ones, Bunch?
Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes
I
very
haven't read the whole thing.
substantially
There's probably some
and
good ones
create
in there.
a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic.
Well,
we handed
yes, there
them
has been no
over
policy.
a
Well,
country
from either
where the
candidate, to be
economy
clear.
and where the stock
And I'd
market
expect
was higher
basically
than
none
it
all
was
night.
before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did
Everybody
things
gets
that
a
nobody
gown.
thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for
Thank
a
you, King
lot
of
of
Bacon.
things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back
Everybody
and it
loves
went to
bouncy
their
jobs.
benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know
There you
it,
go.
and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
Bouncy castle jobs,
So-
everybody.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future
Trump's favorite
of
type
America.
of job, other than
what
black
Goldman
jobs,
Sachs
is the
has
poll.
said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the
Exclamation point
economy
O is how you
worse.
fill that out.
Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would
Rodeo
increase
clowns.
inflation and by the middle of next year would invite
I'm
a
voting for number
recession.
4.
You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no
like
plan
hose
for
job,
you
too.
because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
He's doing okay.
They gave her that to
Oh,
say.
they muted him.
Look,
They
I
muted
went to
him.
the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors,
Keep
the
him
top
muted.
professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country.
Any particular
And just
race you want to
finish
assign
off,
those jobs, Trump?
She doesn't have a plan.
saying all jobs.
She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like
Rodeo
run,
class,
spot,
okay.
run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't
She's
have a
running
plan.
out 4
Take a look at her
sentences.
plan.
This
She
is the
doesn't
Trump
have a
we
plan.
need. What,
Mr.
what are
President,
the
I do
4
want to drill down
sentences,
on
Bunch?
something you both brought up.
Maybe she's gonna
The
say
Vice
all of them
President
right now.
brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might
That's
double
not a
your
sales
plan,
tax, which are
imposing
gone now.
Tariffs up to
He's
20%
not
on
eliminating-
goods
that was
coming
insane
into
of
this
him to
country.
say.
As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not
I mean,
gonna
I
have
can't.
higher
I'm a baller.
prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have higher
Way to go,
prices is
Mike.
China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars,
There's
and
the
so
China.
were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the
More
tariffs.
China.
But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
Say it again.
We are going to take
love
in
to hear it.
billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else.
I haven't had eggs in 7 years
because of our country Kamala Harris administration. Absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy.
Do the math there, Munch.
And all you have to do is look at a poll.
Did.
The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is, under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military.
Oh, now she's anti-selling.
Basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet.
Now she's
Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point, when we know that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like
no more chips.
I don't say her because she has no policy.
What are
Everything
America's
that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
She liked that.
It will be
Harris is
the
having
end
a
of our
good time.
country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her
Really?
father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of
People love cum
abortion.
chips.
President Trump,
say?
you've often touted that you were able to kill
That's
Roe v.
democracy in
Wade.
action, which it
Last
is as well
year,
tonight.
You said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban, because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote,
how
I'm
pro-life
going to be
is
voting
he?
that
Let's
we
find
need
out.
more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore,
well, it
why
depends
should
who he
they
gets
trust
pregnant.
you?
The reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you
terrible
know, the
thing to
vote
say,
is,
but also true.
They have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical.
In other
the
words,
Democrats
which other
are
words?
radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because
he's a master of the
really
verbal
out
jump.
of it.
He went from
but her
we'll
vice
decide to
presidential
execute.
pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay.
What,
And
is she
that's
mad
not
just because
okay
he's
with me.
saying things that
Hence
aren't
the
true?
vote. But what I did is something for 52 years they've been trying to get Roe v. Wade.
It's his turn to lie. We can't get mad at him for taking his turn to lie. He's saying just wildly untrue things. Yeah, but it's his turn to do that.
6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions.
No fact-checking allowed. This is a fact-free zone. Don't worry.
And now
they made sure of it.
States are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every
I will
Democrat,
admit,
every
she does look a lot better than
liberal,
him. This is not a
they
flattering
all wanted
side-by-side.
this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote.
Why are
And
all
that's
of you
what
so
happened.
obsessed with how she looks?
Now,
I'm just
Ohio,
admitting she looks good.
the vote was somewhat liberal.
That makes you mad?
Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit
See,
to
if you
those
talk
6
enough,
justices.
I lose track of what he's saying, and some of it was probably true, right?
It is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said,
They
you're going to
got
hear a bunch of
fact-checked.
lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President.
When you put it like that, his position sounds a little bad, I
It's
guess.
a lie.
That's his
I'm
position.
not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban.
It's a state ban,
we've
basically.
gotten what everybody wanted.
State by state.
Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says
See,
is
we're not focusing enough on
absolute
his
lie.
accomplishment
And
here.
as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion
It doesn't
ban?
matter. Oh, okay, we can stop talking about
because
it.
again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50, essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said,
that was
we'll do
Biden.
it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea.
What is
and
she
how
talking
unfair
about
that
now?
would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D.
Classic throwing J.D. under the bus.
I don't mind if he has
That's going to win him some
view,
support.
But I think he was speaking for me.
He knows who to throw under buses.
Look,
pregnant women
we don't
and
have
J.D.
to
Vance.
discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved.
Taunted?
So it doesn't matter what she says about
I didn't
going
know we
to
were
Congress.
taunting.
Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it.
Get up on
But
the
the fact
D-pad.
is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government, and we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade, and as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in
a
America
clear answer. How refreshing.
is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and,
His answer was just complex.
asking for an abortion.
really,
that is
really
not
listen
happening. It's
to
insulting to
understand
the
any
women
of
of
it.
America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. Oh. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF.
He's a leader of the
I have
IDF?
been a leader. In fact,
What? No.
when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama
actually,
courts,
debatably, yes. but
I saw
that's
the
not what
people
you're
of
saying.
Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows
Ooh,
it.
what?
I have
We
been a
knew that?
leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask.
You're the whisperer.
Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that?
Oh shit, she's bringing up the commands.
Why don't you ask her
Why-
that question?
why don't you
That's
answer
the
the
problem.
question, would you
Because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question,
you
would you
could
veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th
Ooh, they're
month,
getting
the
feisty.
9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump,
What?
thank you.
Why do
We're
you
going to turn
keep
now
saying
to
that?
immigration
'Cause
and
it's
border
effective.
security. We know it's an issue that's important to
assuming.
Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings
here we
reached a
go.
record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed
You should
tough
like her
new
position
asylum
on this.
restrictions.
It's just
We
a
know the
conservative
numbers since then
position.
have
Isn't that
dropped
exciting?
significantly. But
She's
my
not-
question
she's
to you
stealing
tonight
our-
is
she's
why did
stealing
the
our
administration
hustle.
wait until
And
6
you hate
months
to see it.
before
She's
the election
appropriating
to act?
conservative positions
And would
here.
you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And
Yeah, but
let me
Trump's probably
say
done some of
that
those
the
things,
United
so
States
who
Congress,
really knows?
including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
She sounded a little too
and I'll tell you
rational, in my
something, he's going to
opinion.
talk about immigration a lot
rational.
tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being
Too much
raised.
like, I thought about
and I'm
it.
going to
Come
actually
on.
do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see
What?
during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional
She's
characters
plugging
like
his rallies?
Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills
She brought up
cause
Hannibal Lecter
cancer.
first.
And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not
Here's a
hear him
weird
talk
angle,
about
I'll
your
admit.
needs,
This one's a
your
little bit of a
dreams,
weird
and your
angle.
and your desires.
I like it,
And
actually.
I'll tell you, I
She's
believe
playing
you
his hits.
deserve a
It's like she's
president
doing his
who
finisher.
actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just
She
ask,
just
though,
hit the rock
why
bottom
did you
on
try
rock.
to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
Shit.
And then
Yeah.
showing them in a different light.
Nobody makes up
she
stuff
can't
like
talk
this,
about
man.
That. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country
You brought up
back.
busing somehow
Our
in this
country is
context. You
being
gotta give it
lost.
up for
We're
that.
a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they
Yeah,
have done to our
just
country
go
by
wherever.
allowing these millions and
What is he
millions of
talking
people
about?
to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the
What?
cats. They're eating.
Oh my God.
They're eating the pets.
Oh my
of
God,
the
our poor
people
dogs
that
in
live
Springfield?
there.
Oh my God.
And this
They
is
ate
what's
the
happening
Simpsons
in our
dog.
country.
No.
And it's a shame.
The
As
Christmas
far
dog
as
or whatever.
Rallies are concerned, as far as
They're
the
gonna start
reason
eating
they
Maggie
go
if
is
we're
they
not
like
careful.
What I say, they want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase: "Make America great again."
No
She's
more Santa's
destroying
Little
this
Helper,
country.
America. That's
And if she
Kamala
becomes
Harris is
president,
America.
This country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only
This is-
success,
how do people
we'll end up
listen
being
to this?
Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed,
Yeah, just what a
injured,
city
or abused
manager
by
would
individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this-
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
People on
this is a
television say
clear-
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good
Yeah.
thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you
We'll
heard.
find out.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush,
200
Mitt
traitors.
Romney, and John
She's proud of
McCain,
having traitors in her
including
ranks.
the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know
great, the Cheneys.
the inside track on who
Don't know how I feel
the
about her
former president
bragging
is,
about having
if
a
he didn't
Cheney
make it clear
endorsement, but
already,
okay.
just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former
why is he
Secretary
nodding?
of Defense has said the nation, the republic,
He's
would
agreeing
never
with her.
survive another Trump
Trump,
term.
don't do it. Stop nodding.
And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond
Yeah.
here.
Thank you, because when I hear that,
You gotta arm wrestle
see,
a
I'm
ghost.
a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish,
who's ahead on
more
books
votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so
Wait,
let's get
you're
back
not
to
going to
your
mention that that's just not true?
Proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many millions of criminals.
I hate them.
They allowed terrorists.
Them
they
are doing so much.
Common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States.
When are we going to stop them?
By their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is
going to bring
way
them Hannibal
down?
somewhere.
You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes. But it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this
Another
at all. They've
completely made up
destroyed the fabric
scenario.
of our country. Millions of people let in. And all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up
also
and
down
through
here.
the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this
there
country
you go.
is
It's fraud.
through the roof.
You're
And we have a new
fraudulizing
form
crime.
of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person
one reason why that might not
on
happen,
the
though.
issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents,
pretty good.
get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases
Trump, don't
was
be
involved
anti-weapon
with the
now.
DOJ,
Come on.
from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the
We love weapons.
Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election.
Never been courts used as weapons
President
before.
Trump,
He's
thank
right.
you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this
okay.
notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court
context of what has been?
recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails.
Shit, he is looking like a lizard right now.
Now
Oh, man.
the court won't stop
Okay,
him. We
oop,
know
that's not
J.D.
better.
Vance
Trump,
is not going to stop
fix
him.
the face.
It's up to the American people.
Shit, maybe he can't.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
Weaponized, please.
We got to
This is the
continue
one
here.
that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a
This
bullet
room
to the
seems so
head
small.
because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're the threat to democracy with a
President
fake
Trump.
Russia investigation
We do have a lot
that
to get.
went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States, and in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign
There's no
oil.
distance between us
We
here.
have had the largest
I love it when she says stuff like
increase
this. She's
in
playing the hits of
domestic
me.
oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes
I mean,
that
even
we
RuPaul
cannot
loves
over-rely on
fracking.
foreign
We're going to get mad
oil.
at her for it?
As it relates to my
Exactly.
values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those
zigzags
who
are
are
a little
most
extreme, I
vulnerable.
gotta say.
My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done. Protecting
He's
seniors
using Trump
from
jutsu on a few of
have
these
not
statements.
changed.
Zigging
and
hard.
what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name-calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well, first of
response?
all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I
No
was.
time
My father
for
was
these
a Brooklyn
moderators.
builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they
With a
are
B.
even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund
I
the
mean, that'd be
police.
good if she
She's
was.
been against that forever. She gave all
But
that
also not
stuff
true,
up
apparently.
very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's
Do
laughing
Americans
at
care
it.
that much
okay?
about
They're all
fracking?
laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Oh,
If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
what?
She went out.
Oh, Jesus.
She went out in Minnesota
was
and
with that
wanted to
side
let
look?
criminals
Oh, my
that killed
God.
people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now
It's
she wants to
getting more
do
contentious.
transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. Just to finish one thing, so
I guess
important
they're
in
aiming
my
for
opinion.
Pennsylvania squarely in the
So
crosshairs right
I
now.
got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over,
No one was doing oil
they got
before
rid of
Trump.
it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago.
Higher.
They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the
Who
election,
said?
the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead, fossil fuel will be dead, we'll go back to windmills, and we'll go
Oh, my
back
God.
to solar.
Our
where
oil
they
won't
need
be
a whole
alive
desert
anymore.
to get some energy to come out of it. You ever
The
see
spirits
a solar
of the
plant? By
dinosaurs
way, I'm a
inside
big
it
fan
will
of solar.
fade.
But they take 400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that we
for the
have to get
environment.
to.
They
We're
see
out
on
of
How
time.
do you
television.
ban
Thank you.
fracking?
Lindsay,
Exclamation
thank you.
point.
We have
Oh,
an
is how you
election
tell
in
us,
just
Chad.
56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you
Fracking,
told your
that's
supporters to
smart.
march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out
Eating
at the Capitol
pets,
that
that's
day,
gonna
the
be a hard
officers
sell.
coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than
Number
2
5,
hours before you
unfortunately,
sent out that video
would work
message
on some people.
telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control
Ashley
police
Babbitt.
officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace.
He's going after
But
the police?
We didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country
Damn,
and killing
we
people?
went with the dark
that she
option.
allowed to pour it in. She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said
I do
at
think
the
it might be
beginning,
because czar is
"Oh,
such
I'm
a weird
surprised you're not
title."
talking about the border yet." That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from
Kamala's
all
making some pretty good faces,
the
I gotta
world,
say.
David, all over the world, and crime rates are down all over the world because
Now
of
who's
it.
talking
But let me-
about her
when are
face?
David,
No, I mean her
when are
reactions.
those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle, they took over
Oh,
a
I
big
wonder-
percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be
Other than
big.
the speech
I
you
went to
gave right
Nancy
before it
Pelosi
happened?
And the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big
riot about
rally
me,
or whatever
I had
you want
nothing
to
to
call
do
it.
with.
And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also
you're a Washington insider.
I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's
the
capital.
Vice President is a Washington insider.
To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville.
It's not treason if you win.
Where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember.
Maybe he meant sexy.
That when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they
she sounds good, I'm supposed to be impressed.
That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this. You talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to it's been so bad. It's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border.
We'll get Kendall in here at the break.
They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker.
Never admit you lost, you
didn't
fool.
quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
He's going to say he didn't say it.
I said that sarcastically. You know that. We said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
Whisker was sarcastic.
There's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it.
What?
And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval.
He was trolling like our boy JD.
75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The The
They
election, people
they
should
lost by
never
a
be
whisker.
thinking about
A
an election as
sarcastic
fraudulent.
whisker.
We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad.
People
And
say
a
you
lot
can't
of
tell
these
sarcasm
illegal
over
immigrants
text.
coming
Turns out you
in,
can't tell
they're
it
trying
ever.
to get them to vote. They
He's
can't
just
even
bringing that
speak
up.
English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the
He did
sarcasm,
Urkel
lost by a
and
whisker.
Urkel.
We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No
Republican.
judge looked at it.
And said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread
standing.
fraud.
That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The
What are
president
the best
of the
kinds
United
of whiskers?
States doesn't have
Exclamation
standing.
point O to fill
That's
that
how
out,
we
Chad.
lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia,
Wow, he sounds
and I'll show
upset
you
and
Wisconsin,
crazy.
and I'll show you
But
Pennsylvania.
that is how he always
and I'll
sounds,
show you-
so I don't know.
We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old
Badgers.
news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have
Exclamation point
put
1 through
it
5 is how
into
you vote for
decline.
those.
We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you.
Oh, we're
Vice
dying.
President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that.
Trump
that
is
he
our
lost
new
by a
doctor.
whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you
doesn't
about
believe the
something
thing
that's
that
come up in
happened.
the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials.
Sorry,
he says
Reverie
will be
Wolf. The
prosecuted
Redditon
to the
Badgers
fullest
look like they
extent of
have
the
it.
law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't
These
let
bad-
him
people
suppress
know
the
what's
vote.
up.
Is that what you
Redditon
believe
Badgers
he's
all the
trying to do
way.
here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who
Is this what it's like when
attempts,
someone
as he
who
did in the past,
can form sentences
to
talks to
upend
Trump?
the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
His
And when
trademark
you
phrase,
then
he used
talk
it. He's
in
going to
this
sue.
way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be
He's looking up.
confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
We'll
I'll
be
give you
the
1
judge
minute
if
to
we
respond.
deserve
Let
better.
me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said
Why
it.
is it so
He
Viktor
said the
Orban
most
based?
respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems
Feared?
when Trump was president.
Yeah, there we go.
But when this weak, pathetic man that you
Anger
saw at a
leads to
debate
hate.
just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand
Not
her.
Orban.
But he got 14
Oh, no,
million
Orban
votes.
hates her.
They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when
Damn,
she
the real
ran,
debate's between
she was
Orban
the
and
first
Harris.
one to leave because she failed. and now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Americans'
I'm okay
number
with it
one
because
issue. What does
Your time
Victor
is up.
Orban
We're gonna do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them.
Oh,
Vice
great.
President
Here we
Harris,
go.
in December, you said, quote,
Maybe she can
Israel
say
has a right
pass
to
on
defend
this.
itself, but you
Pass.
added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian
Well, this should be
law
great.
must
They
be
both agree
respected.
on this
Israel
one. They
must
can
do
just
more
kind
to
of shake
protect
hands and
innocent
say, we'll do
civilians.
genocide together.
You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7th,
there it is. Literally,
Hamas,
count the words.
a terrorist
4 or 5
organization,
will be October.
slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed.
Also true,
Children,
but said it very
mothers.
secondarily.
What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire.
Everybody's getting in a couple lies. See, you got to have. It wouldn't be a debate if both sides didn't tell some
And so we will continue to work around
lies.
the clock on that.
Well,
work around the clock,
lies
also
might be
understanding that we
extreme.
must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular
thank
as
God.
it relates
We
to,
were so
as it
worried.
relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies
complicated
pose to
situation,
Israel.
so you
But
should
we
do your
must
best.
have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security,
clear, and as I said,
self-determination, and the dignity they
they
so
agree
rightly
here.
deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia.
That's how we would have
never,
handled it, is previously.
ever. I know Putin very well. He would have
Previously
never,
on
there was
Trump.
no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people.
what is going
when
to
you add
Ukraine?
it up. Far worse
Oh
than
wait,
people
that's actually
understand
kind of
what's going
smart.
on
Just
over
don't
there.
bring up Israel.
But when she mentions
move to
about
the other
Israel, all
war.
of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist.
Can't believe
within
they're
2
fighting
years
over
from
the
now. And I've
same
been pretty good at
slice of the
predictions.
pie
I
here.
hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population.
Well, she hates both
because
sides.
the whole place is going to get blown
He's
up.
once again
Arabs,
saying there's
Jewish
unfine people on both
Israel,
sides.
Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres
Iran,
of
famously
terror.
always
and
broke.
They are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
Hey, no need to vote for him.
Absolutely not true. I have
Let's
my
just do it
entire
anyway.
career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and
They could ask him how,
from the
but
reality,
just-
which
you
is it
gotta
is very
trust
well known
the faith-based
that
society.
Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin
Trying to outflank
that
each other from the right.
he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why
he did nod there.
So many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on national security, including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard
it does not
our
make me
military.
feel any better.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down.
The crime rates,
endorsed her
the weighted
last
clothes
week,
are off.
said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it. Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
What a time to be alive for these momentous debating occasions. Ugh. Well, I mean, he's fucking up seemingly, right? What do you mean? What? Are we watching the same debate? What did he do? If this is classic, he's just doing all the classic stuff that he does. Trump needs a Coke break. Look, are we really going to hold it up against presidents if they do a little bit of Coke? I don't think he's doing a Coke break. Why would you even concede that? I mean, look, sure, does he seem a little crazy? Does he look like a monster orange gremlin? Does he kind of fucking look like a groblin next to Paris? A little bit. Okay, but, that's how he's always looked, and this is how he's always sounded. So if this was going to turn people off, it would have already, right? Well, I mean, it did turn a lot. I've been turned off. Exactly. And somehow a lot of us, we're still really turned on. You know what I mean? I don't know what you mean. I don't know how you could watch that and feel even the twinge of excitement to vote for him. I understand there's a huge portion of the country that still will, but I think this is a more marginal type of bad than what we saw from Biden in the last debate, obviously, which really ousted him from the race. But I do think he is doing a terrible job here, and this should actually benefit Harris. Of course you think, but you thought that beforehand. Yeah, but I mean, I kind of thought it wouldn't matter. And the side-by-side is a little insane. He just sounds like a psychopath. He looks awful. She sounds rational. And as you love to point out, she looks good. Yes, she does. She looks good. I do like to say that. Me and my boys, we love to say how hot she is. That you do. I still don't understand why that's a thing, but yes, you all do keep saying that. I don't know. Adderall? Yeah, if he can do Adderall, why can't he do Coke? Well, because one's illegal. I mean, I'm not saying. No, I don't think anyone's doing Coke or Adderall. Well, they might be doing Adderall. Well, you got to do a little bit of Adderall before the debate. You obviously have to do a little bit of Adderall. He still hasn't changed. Chris Christie said he wouldn't see the dark Trump until later, but he just busted out of the starting gate with it. How is what he's saying different than what he's always said? Well, I just think the difference is the contrast. We've kind of had, Hillary and Biden as the only people to do a little tete-a-tete with him. Hillary, unfortunately, people find unlikable for some reason. For some reason, people find Hillary Clinton a little unlikable. I don't think people have that strong of an opinion on Kamala, or at least as strong of it as an opinion. That opinion seems to still be forming. I think if you were forming an opinion from watching this debate, this actually is good for her. I'm surprised. My instincts are to know that your side is terrible and will eventually fuck up. No, just to err on the side of caution because the Democrats essentially are a losing machine. No, just to my instincts are to err on the side of caution. But I think objectively she is doing a better job in this debate than him. I hope he brings up Red Dragon style people coming over the border. He should just start bringing up more movies. And if Hannibal Lecter worked, just be like, have you ever seen the movie The Raid? That movie, it kicks ass. And that's happening in tenements all around our country. The movie The Raid is happening, where our best SWAT team officers are having to fight 10, 20, 50 guys at once in incredibly elaborate choreography. How would that help? Because then everybody's thinking about The Raid and how that movie fucking rocks. And nobody's thinking about anything. I will say it is still a fairly low substance debate, unfortunately. The primary substance is just the contrast between the two candidates. It's pretty par for the course. It's rare that any substantial policy is discussed in this 1 to 3 time event of a debate, but it does rock. See, I got Metal Chaos thinking about it. Well, The Raid does kick ass, and now everybody's thinking about The Raid. This is why they need people like me in politics. You try to come for me and I'll bring up The Raid? What are you doing now? You're thinking about The Raid. Well, I'm thinking about the gifted Tier 1 sub from Shaggy175. Thanks so much. Debates weren't fantastic prior to 2016, but Trump really just murdered the concept of debates entirely. You're saying it. He's murdering this currently working. I don't think that's what currently working is saying. Bring up G4. Have you heard of this network G4? It has the biggest, brightest people. My new chief of food lube chef. I mean, that's the thing he could say. I think you could say that. He could just kind of say whatever, and it would just sort of bleed in with the rest of it. All right, I think we're getting back in. Let's see what else they have to say.
Presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into
war
this
to war.
conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins,
like waterboarding.
he may be emboldened to
lean
move
back
even
in the
further
chair and open
into
up
other
those
countries.
nostrils, not cases,
You have
brother.
said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives.
This is a man of peace.
Uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look,
now it's fake
we're
numbers.
in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to
believe he did say that, Kartik.
With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me.
They respect Biden? Oh, him.
How
Good.
would
Okay.
you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect,
Yeah, everybody,
and what
let's
I'll
settle.
do
Let's
is I'll
settle
speak to
in
one, I'll speak to the
4
other,
more years of
I'll
this.
get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left, I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president
All right,
that we
he
don't
said
even
that
know
several
if he's-
times now.
Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of
That's
a
a
campaign
fair question,
like a
actually.
dog. We don't even
He's
know.
taking a
Is he our president?
powder break. He
but
went to
we
the
have
bathroom.
a president,
Mr. President.
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up.
Whoa,
Just to
okay.
clarify the question,
I mean, I'm
do
not
you
sure he
believe it's in
does.
the U.S.
Yeesh.
best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the
He
U.S.
knows.
best interest to get this war finished and
He's got
just get it
senioritis.
done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris.
We
I want to
care
hear your
about Ukrainian
thoughts
lives
on,
and
support
not
for
many others,
Ukraine
apparently.
in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened.
We never
here.
stop warring.
I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now.
Yeah, I know.
And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president.
And you're arguing over who's going to supply more weapons for war.
Understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up?
How many of them would it take to screw in a light bulb,
and what you
Mr.
think
President?
is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow, much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them. I do think a lot of people do think about that. He hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak
BioShock was based on this moment, actually, from the future.
That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator.
This is what he had to say.
They sent her in to negotiate.
He had to get in there to say this.
Left, Putin did the invasion.
How come he gets to interject for 5 minutes whenever he wants?
You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
Honestly, not much, Uncle Phil.
In terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about
longer this
Afghanistan.
goes,
It came
actually,
up in
the
the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
The worse it is for
said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
What do you
mean?
mean?
He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time.
It is starting to feel repetitive because
he said, "I've never seen." He's the head of NATO. He said, "I've never seen." For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan.
Thanks.
It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
They really have to talk to us like we're babies, don't they?
The negotiation involved the
They do.
Taliban
They're trying to
getting
soothe us.
5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States.
What if she dropped it? What if she just out of nowhere?
Level of respect.
With that angle.
And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So, if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time.
You got involved with the Taliban.
I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal and, in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country.
Oh,
Mr.
boy,
President,
here we
you
go.
recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago.
They've had
when
the
she happened
strategy
to
of just
turn
not
black,
discussing
and now
race
she
on the
wants to
Harris
be known
side.
as black. I want to ask
It'll
a
be
bigger
interesting if she
picture
actually
question
has
here
responses
tonight.
to this.
Why do you believe it's appropriate
I do think
to
the
weigh
wiser
in on
strategy
the
is what
racial
she's been
identity
doing.
of your
She's
opponent?
just saying, like,
I don't
fuck
care.
'em.
I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say
He
is I
doesn't
read
know what
where
he
she
said. He was kidding.
Not black.
Oh,
and she put
God,
out,
he's going into it.
And I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
She's got to pick, though.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who
I'm sure
took
he'll
out
admit to
a
that,
full-page
right?
ad in the New York Times calling for the execution
Maybe you'll surprise him and say, yeah, I did whatever.
young black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park Five, took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies
Man, sometimes
about
you
the
forget
first
how
black
long he's been
president of
around
the
doing
United
this stuff.
States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel
You don't know
our
that,
country.
Harris. You don't know what we want.
We see in
We
each
like
other
bad stuff.
a friend. We see in each
Have you
other
seen
a neighbor.
reality TV?
We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency
He's
in the
moderating.
history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our
All the
country.
cuck porn on the internet's
and
going to
they
get
come
replaced
up
with these two.
things like what she just said.
They're doing their
Going
best.
back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago.
Oh, that was the Central Park Five
because
you was
there's
just talking
nothing
about?
now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy.
They're gonna
They
somehow
have no
litigate the
idea what a
Central
good
Park
economy
5
is. Their oil
currently?
policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I
1989
don't know
hottest
the
issue.
gentleman. She says, she is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad.
This is
and she
smart. He
can't
needs
get
to say
away with
inflation a
that.
lot.
Time's up,
I
Lindsay.
want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation
Those are
of
two
leadership
strong
for our
points.
country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a
Ooh,
plan
we're going to get into plans?
to give startup businesses
I like plans.
$50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help
Which
you
character should
in that
Case
most critical
revive?
stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She
please.
has a plan to defund the police.
They don't
she
move
has
on.
a plan to confiscate everybody's
Fiona's running
gun.
away with this
President
one.
Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay,
That's
she
what
keeps
her
saying
plan is
Pennsylvania and
until just
fracking.
recently.
I just need
Lindsey,
to respond
President
because
Trump,
no, the
President
former
Trump,
president has said
no, I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I
Losing
need to
control.
respond.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
going
need
to
to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable
Fiona,
Care Act,
Case will
also
finally
known
reprise
as
his most
Obamacare.
popular
You have failed
character,
to accomplish
Fiona.
that. You now
Excited
say
for
you're
that.
going to keep Obamacare,
Can't wait for
quote,
Case to play
unless we
Fiona
can do
again.
something much better. Last month you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this. I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot?
Make Obamacare
And I felt
not
I had
that great
an
again.
obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people
I
in
wonder why
this
he
that
wouldn't want to replace
administration.
Obamacare.
We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't
Groups
get
would
rid
have
of
a
them. But let me just
vested interest
explain.
in not rocking
I
the
had a
boat like
choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But
He's
until
throwing
then,
it to
I'd
the
run
wolves.
it as good as
Allow
it can
the wolves
be
to
run.
set our
So
prices.
just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
That is
I'm
true
not
mental
president
chaos.
right now. But if
Well, sort of.
we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do
He
that.
is taking
and
credit
you'll be
for-
hearing
he's
about
saying
it
he
in the not
kept
too
it,
distant
basically.
future.
It's
Vice
a very
President
weird
Harris, in 2017,
stance for him
you
to take,
supported
I will
Bernie
admit.
Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private health care options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care
Well,
Act.
thank God she
I'll get
supports
to that,
private
Lindsay. I just need
healthcare.
to respond to a previous point
Oh, boy.
that the former
I was
president
worried
has
she
made.
didn't.
I've made very clear
So,
my
huge
position on
relief.
fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's
Oh shit,
guns
she's
away.
strapped.
So stop with
Oh
the
my God,
continuous
Mr.
lying
President,
about this
she's
stuff.
got a gun. Well,
As
not
it relates to
currently,
the
probably.
Affordable
I
Care
don't
Act,
know.
understand. Just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald
Mentioning
Trump
guns
was
around this
president,
brave gun
60
survivor?
times
Oh, that
he
is a
tried to
stretch.
get rid of
How
the
is that a
Affordable
stretch?
Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate, and the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The
She loves
late,
John
great John
McCain.
McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor
The
and
Democrats,
said,
the party
no,
of
you
John
don't.
McCain.
No, you don't. No, you
Essentially,
don't get rid
nowadays-
of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate
everybody but you, actually,
drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000
Trump does
a
hate
year.
McCain, that's
and when
true.
I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a lot
She made
of...
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money.
Allow me to interrupt
But she
to say
won't
the
improve
same thing again.
Private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance.
The
that have
mistake was
worked
bringing up
hard
that she had
and
a gun,
made money,
but not on
and they
her,
want to have
apparently.
private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over
Seems like there could be a
800,000
slight
new
conflict there,
manufacturing
but
jobs while I have been vice president.
She's doing
we have
both.
invested in clean energy to the point that
Better
we
than
are
nothing.
opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants
they're
in
here
Mexico,
again. They're leaving.
in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina
just say China
or any other
again.
place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked
if you're taking shots, you're dead.
and they're selling
And now
our
you have
country
died.
down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates in a historic
Close it
night,
out,
this
folks.
ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a
Wow.
minute.
Things are heating up to roughly the exact same temperature. What a time. Indeed, it is a time to be alive. But the closing statements are coming, so it's almost done. I thought you were so excited that your lady was wiping the floor with him. I mean, I think she is. I honestly do think, on the whole, this is still... I do think the longer it goes, just the more laborious of a task it is to watch it at all, which probably could dim some of the enthusiasm for just the thing in general, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, I do think she sounds a lot better than him. And I think we're probably sliding towards the place we always get to, which is, who knows, probably doesn't matter. Well, I mean, look, is this going to move a poll in any direction? Well, don't you not even believe in polls? Well, look, the polls are cooked, the polls are lies, but this could affect the polls, and it probably won't. Well, do you care about the polls or not? And look, polls never predict anything, but I'm just saying, is this going to actually help her? It's moving your poll, Scheimer? Look, I'll admit, obviously she moves my poll. She's an incredible sexual lady. What? Stop. Can you just stop because it's a female candidate constantly referencing their appearance? I can't because it's a compliment. You sound like a dude doing catcalling. You all sound like that. And that's supposed to be wrong? Yes. Well, look, it's political theater, yeah. And like most theater, it's really fucking boring a lot of the time. Well, it hasn't been that boring. I mean, Trump says insane things. And there you go. See? He's the one bringing the vest and the verve here. The only reason you think she's doing well is because he's pulling it out of her, He's like that magnetic actor that needs to be in the scene. That's why he's the main character. You might think he's not doing well, but he's the main character. So even if he's doing poorly, we're on a journey with him, which is why he's going to win. Well, here's what, last time we did a debate, which was who won the debate. That probably doesn't matter. I guess the debate we could go with after this is, who do you think is going to win? And see if it's changed anything. I honestly do think Harris is going to win. And that's why you've settled into, I'm safe. Underwent Trent, thank you for the gifted sub. Search deep in your dark heart. You know the truth. He's probably going to fucking win again. Are you really not going to? What's untrustworthy about me? You're not going to trust me? Well, we're both in dollar store golden jackets in one of the gaudiest rooms of all time. You're insulting our beautiful studio? This incredible studio? Apologies for insulting the studio. I have no clue with the way people are behaving. Unfortunately, it is very hard to predict anything because the fact you could watch what we just saw and then, or watch Trump at any point and then say, I want to vote for him to be president, will never stop being baffling to me. And that's because you're simple-minded. You don't understand the complex American soul and that we're moved by a variety of things. We're moved by the soaring rhetoric of Abraham Lincoln. We're also moved by getting 20 people on an island and making them partner up and decide who they want to sleep in bed that night. And we want to see that on Netflix in 8 different formats. That's America, baby. Resolve those things. And Trump does that for us. What are you talking about? He's just all he's doing, he's just lying. He's just flat out lie after flat out lie. It's not about reality TV. It's an actual country. And that's where you're wrong. It's an actual country that loves reality TV. And he's still making for kind of good TV if you maybe watch highlights.
I can see.
Pepito gets it. How does Pepito get it? Pepito is just high on cheese. Check out Chaos. I watched the whole thing. I actually also watched the whole thing. We could get into Chaos later. I think they might be getting back into the debate. Oh no, they're just playing gentle music. Oh wait, here we go. Oh no, they're playing ads. Well, we'll just stay on this screen so we know when it's coming. But we'll mute their ads for themselves. I refuse to support other debate commentators. Wait, what are they saying now?
Kamala Harris and Donald Trump.
And when it ends, please join us for analysis of tonight's key moments. Our team will break.
I refuse to join anyone. Because I'm legit like that. You thought I was nothing more than a fever dream? Well, the fever hasn't broken yet. I'm right here, baby. Ugh. Find a cure, people.
Closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client,
cop, baby. She's
the people.
Back.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
President Trump. So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these
she's not going to say any of that.
Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years.
As vice president?
3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice
talking about the 1930s
our country
now.
For the sake of bad vision.
I don't think,
but I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world.
Where's your Reich?
I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me.
I'm going to fight for your Reich to Germany.
We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history
the number one
of our country.
Not being good.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC
You didn't have to take one breath that whole time. That's why he's the best.
National Constitution
he took breaths.
Davis.
No, he didn't.
Muir, thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us
Look
here
at these
at
two.
ABC News. Good night.
Oh my God, they got spanked all night. Told to shut the fuck up.
And welcome back.
They got in their last little lick at the end. We did a good job, right? No, you two failed miserably, and you should be ashamed. I mean, what could they really do? It's like two potential presidents saying, "Stop! I'm talking." You kind of have to shut up. I mean, something. They probably could have done something, would be my argument, but whatever. I guess that's not the point. Yes, the point actually is the debate. And what was the point of the debate? Well, I mean, Kamala, as people were saying, she needed to define herself a little bit better for some Americans. A lot of people say they don't have a good sense of her policies, or maybe just their opinions on her are unformed. I do think if that's true, this was a good showing for her. The last debate showed people that Biden needed a little break, which he's taking now. A little break. Yeah, Biden's taking a little break. So maybe debates are more consequential than we're giving credit for, and I do think if they are, this was a positive for Harris. And I think you're just not thinking. No, I think it's fine. You think it's fine? I think it was fine. For who? It's fine. For which person? You know, it was fine though for one of them, and both. So you think you're just saying it didn't matter? I'm saying it was fine. It was fine, Crumb. Are you happy? I mean, no. Many aspects of that were a bit depressing, but I would say the kernel of positivity is at worst, this was not damaging for Harris. At worst. That would be the low end of the top end of looking at it is, I think this was a bit of a slam dunk as far as the comparison between the two. And you just but you don't know how to dunk. You don't know how to dunk. Look, the thing we're going to do now is we're going to ask our chat, who's going to win the election. This could be the only debate, so we got to decide tonight. I don't know if that's how that works. Despite all the money poured into polling, there's never been an entirely coherent way to decide to poll people in a way that has accurately predicted presidential elections. You know, famously, Donald Trump was behind in the polls and then won. So, and then this year's even closer than ever. So I do think, unfortunately, it's at least up till now a toss-up. But however you do want to vote, let's ask our chat, who will win? Trump, Kamala. And I'll take the side, well, if we're using last names, I'll say Harris. And I will take the side of Harris. Go! And look, I mean, you don't have to like him. I'm obviously taking the side of Trump, not necessarily because I agree with him, but you seemingly do. Look, I'm loyal to my team, okay? You can think that he sucks, but you have to admit to yourself, he's probably gonna fucking win. But why? Because that's how stuff goes, okay? You think, oh, that doesn't make sense. That shouldn't happen. That would be insane. And then it just does. Haven't we learned anything from the last 10 years? You think the dumbest fucking thing isn't gonna happen? We just had a corpse president for 4 fucking years. We had Tim Burton's corpse president, and you think we're not gonna get Trump again? We're gonna get the seemingly rational looking, actually political choice that you would expect would win in a landslide? Absolutely not. We're gonna get the fucking raving lunatic that just lied for 2 hours straight. Because let's face it, they both fucking lied. She only lied very slightly. He lied a lot more, but it doesn't matter. Because if they're all fucking liars, vote for the one who lies funniest. And Trump's lies are damagingly hilarious. Damagingly hilarious? He lies about actually consequential things. He lies about race and death. He lies about wars. He lies about fucking everything. Yeah, but he lies funny. It's funny when he lies about wars. He's like, that war didn't even happen. Racism? That whole thing in Charlottesville where people literally died? That didn't fucking happen. That was disproven. And we know it's not true, but we're like, you know what? That's fucking funny to lie about. How is that funny? It's a real thing that happened. Why are you getting upset? Because I think she actually will win. I think there's just enough of an inkling of normalcy in this country that people want something that's not fucking going to stress them out all the time. And I think Harris, much like Biden, at least represents a semblance of normalcy. And yes, they're all going to continue to shake down the country, destroy our infrastructure, and strip the fucking lead piping. But at least you're doing it in a way that looks more pleasant. I'm glad that you're going to get something nice and pleasant for yourself, Crumb. Well, couldn't we at least be calm about it while we cannibalize ourselves? Jesus! Time! I hope you're happy, chat. Lying to yourselves like this. It's not... It's 50-50 at best. It's actually pretty close. I honestly thought it'd be less close than this. I'm glad that many of you are just as poisoned as me and think that he probably will win. I honestly don't know. But I'm leaning slightly Harris. But I will say this. I fucking won that one. That was my win. You can't deny that I won at least. You didn't fucking win shit. I literally just look at the score. I just won.
What?
Yeah, we'll see who won. We just saw who won. We'll see who won. In this instance, I just won. Can't you at least admit? Can you admit anything that actually happened? I don't even know if there was a debate. We just watched it for 2 hours. You can't prove that. There's a video of it.
Hold on tight.
The whole audience just watched the debate with us. You can't prove that I watched it.
You burden me with your questions.
I was here with you.
I'll heed the things
I didn't watch. There wasn't a debate. And I didn't see it, and I don't have an opinion on it.
Things you say. I'm Leonard Crumb, we believe you do.
Prove me wrong. I just did.
Your twisted tales.
Everyone saw us watch it together.
You say.
I guess if that's what people are saying.
What was so far?
So you admit that a debate happened? No.
I'm seeing the waveform. I'm not even close.
Don't tell me what I did. No, he's just trying to prove some abstract point. I don't have a point. I'm not the one claiming to make points here. Somebody thinks they're the point king and that they just got a point. I'm arguing that there is no point. Well, I'm glad you're as nihilistic and pointless as ever. I've got the one point that matters, which is that the wolves in chat get it. Get what? They fucking get it. The wolves in chat get it. They know that this was not your win. It was
You're Crumbelievable.
The people's win, meaning it was my win. I win. And tonight America wins, because whenever I win, America wins, and you all win too. And that's really what I'd like to leave on.
This is the
well, I'm glad you managed to make this all about you. Oh, well, me too. I'm being sarcastic. Well, so was Trump about everything he ever said. And yet you're holding that against him. Vance is on ABC. Well, I'll leave it to Case to watch Vance. I've had about all I can stomach of you. Really? You want to talk about things that make our stomachs upset? Look at you with the fucking weird swarm of flies on your jacket.
You're Crumbelievable.
The most upsetting thing of all is having to sit here for 2 hours with you. That's insanity. I agree. I'm glad that our segment's usually only 15 minutes. Munch. I love you. What? I'm just fucking, I hate your guts. That was me being kidding again. Love you. What? Stop saying that. I love you, buddy. You're my best friend. I love you. What are you saying? Just saying I love you. Ew. You say you want to kill me every segment. Are you actually saying, or do you feel like we have a connection? No! Oh my God, you're so pathetic. You want it so bad. You're just such a bad guy. Yeah, but that's why you love me, because I love you too. Stop saying this! I know you mean it a little bit. No, but I don't. I know that you want me to mean it so badly that it's fun, but I don't. All right, that's all the time. No, I say that actually. That's all the time we have. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Boom, what an incredible night for America. We love to see it. Do we love to see it? Did we love to see it? We've already had our debate, so we can't really tell you, but that's all the time we have for now. Let's send it back to Case. JD Vance is in Ohio. Maybe we'll watch that for a minute. I'll bet he can stomach about exactly a minute of that, and we'll get out of here for the night. See you soon. Woo, what a night. Hey, Kendall. Chat wants to know what you think of the debate. It's over. But they did request you. You've been requested. If you can't do it, though, it's okay. Uncle Phil, thank you so much for the 100 bits. I almost forgot that Kendall request. But not quite. JD Vance. Is that, I wonder if I can even, is that live on YouTube? That live somewhere? God, I hate Googling the phrase JD Vance live. Ohio. JD Vance claims on Ohio's Haitian immigrants eating pets. That's from 10 hours ago. You know what? I don't need to watch JD Vance. Although I am slightly morbidly curious about him. Talking about eating pets. Check Grindr. Oh, it's only on Chatterbait. I don't have enough Chatter coins or whatever they use on Chatterbait to interact with Vance.
Like you don't know what kind of coins they use on Chatterbait.
Maybe are they just called coins?
Like you don't know.
I don't know. I actually don't know. Tippy coins?
Yeah, tippy coins.
Kendall, did you have any thoughts on the debate?
We're all doomed.
We're all doomed. That is your Kendall debate corner. You have any thoughts on any other news you want to share?
Stop eating the dogs and cats.
Stop eating the dogs and cats,
Oh, yeah,
chat.
wait. I have news. I have news that has nothing to do with the debate.
Okay, this is Kendall's news corner unrelated to the debate.
Okay, this is news. On The Bachelorette, you know, usually they find a husband. And she did it. She's the first Asian American bachelorette. And they got engaged. And he broke up with her over the phone a month before the reunion. And now everyone's against him. And she went into a bar and got everyone to yell, "Fuck Devin, fuck Devin." And now he came out. This was today. This was like 3 years ago. Oh, is it muted? No. Okay, yeah, okay, good. Okay, and then...
I think they're just saying to mute you for this.
And then... Oh. Ban him. Ban that person.
No, don't ban Vance.
Ban that
He's
person.
expressing his American right for
Put the
free
ban
chat
hammer on that person. Ban him. Okay. And then like 3 hours ago, the ex-fiance guy who won The Bachelor, he literally like posted over like 50 screenshots of their text messages trying to defend himself. And in two of the screenshots were sexts, and he basically just showed us all of their sexts.
There were sexts?
Yeah, like one of them was just like, "Can't wait for your mouth to be on my titties."
That was how they were sexting?
And the other one was just like,
"Hey babe, can't wait for your mouth to be
yeah,
on
no,
my
it's like
titties."
stuff like that. She's just like, when are you gonna get here? My pussy's so empty, and so like stuff like
That's
that.
pretty explicit.
Yeah, it's like, this is pretty bad. I feel like a bad person for saying all this. Anyway, he deleted it an hour later, took away a few of the screenshots, and now the 13-minute video is 2 minutes shorter. But everyone already screen recorded, and everyone already knows exactly. Yeah, and that's it. And that's Kendall's K-pop corner.
Kendall's K-pop corner. Well, that's your expert demanded Kendall corner. Okay. I can't find. Maybe it's on Twitter. I can always stomach a minute of JD Vance just kind of awkwardly smiling on stage, and usually no more than that. So I'll see if I can find this. I can't. Maybe he's not even actually. Maybe he's not live right now. Live on Grindr. JD Vance. Oh, hi. Maybe I can find the dogs thing, because I would like to hear him talk about people eating their pets. JD Vance dogs. Come on, JD. Where's this clip I keep hearing about? Maybe this is it? Let's see.
That for the first time, Ush and I decided to bring our 9-month-old German Shepherd on the road with us. And if you know what a German Shepherd looks like, you know that he looks like a police dog. So we're about to hit the road, but nobody kidnapped my dog because we want him back. God bless you guys. Thank you all. Good to see you.
Well, anyway, 16 seconds of JD Vance is more than enough. I do appreciate that was kind of a joke, but as almost all JD Vance clips end, it just was like two people kind of not knowing if they should clap. He really, and it's unfortunate that I can tell this so intrinsically, that he has such an awful, unlikable face, given certain unfortunate truths that I might have come to accept. That he looks so terrible. It's too bad radio's not still a thing. Too bad radio's not still a bigger deal. Okay, well, I think that's pretty good. You know, I'm usually kind of a 2 hour king, 2 hour maxer. I'll put up 2 hours every day in the gym. Let's see who's online and get out of here for the day. Pepito, great job, man, in the switcher there.
I do my best every time.
Don't do baby speak.
I'm not. Every time.
Don't start doing baby speak. Your voice is baby enough already.
What you mean?
Ugh. You're not a lol cat, okay?
Maybe I am. I has producer.
Stop it. No, it's too gross. Okay, let's see who's on. Let's see who's on the raid. Is there a Gina Darling? There is a Gina Darling. Let's raid a Miss Gina Darling. Thanks again to Gina for streaming last night with Cass and I. Ask her how the debate went. Oh, Hassan and I both had over 100 viewers. That's great. Sorry, I'm seeing on the front page of Twitch here that Hassan and I, we both have around 100 viewers. So we're basically doing the same thing as far as I can tell. So it's good to know. Yeah, we all save democracy together. Okay, everybody, have a great night. I think I should be on tomorrow. I'm not sure what time. I do have some work to do, but streaming should be on the plate sometime in the afternoon. You know me. I hate consistency. Protect your brains. Don't get too worried about the horse race of politics, even though we just watched 2 brutal hours of it. Never stress too much because it's completely out of our control. And what can you really do? Okay, everybody. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Say hi to Gina for me.